Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. Sorry, just a little technical glitch again. My name is Sherisse Alexander, your host of Your Collective. Today, I am joined by John, JR, Rennie. Did I say your last name right, JR?
Oh, yeah, perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Excellent. From BrushFire Ministries. And I don't love to steal people's thunder about their story, their journey, how they got here, and how they want to actually not identify, but present themselves. So, JR, I will turn it over to you. Please share with the audience today who you are, how you got where you are, a little bit of your story, whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Well, okay, so I'm 66, Cherie, so this could be a really long multi-port introduction. I'll try to give you the cliff notes to this. To introduce myself, I have to be true to our identity part of our ministry. So I'll introduce myself as this. My name is JR. I'm the founder of the BrushFires Ministry. I'm a born-again son of the Most High God. And the reason I include that last part is until you actually know who you are in God's economy, who He created you to be, you can't live out your purpose. You can't accomplish what He wants to do in your life because what He wants to do in your life is fueled by your relationship with Him. So for me, by saying that I'm a son of the Most High God, I realize that that is my relationship, and I am now in a position to be able to live out what He wants, what He intended to do through me. So that's a little quick summarization of our very first session of our BrushFires digital workshop. Um, how I got here. How many of your listeners can relate to this story? You've had a certain amount of success. You've achieved a certain number of things. Maybe you got that house. Maybe you got that beautiful spouse. You got happy, healthy kids. And yet you're not really content. You know there's something else out there. And maybe you're being tempted to go into unhealthy things to explore that, and like the Solomon did in the Old Testament. But maybe you know that there's more out there. My journey in that area started, and it was twofold. One was when I wrote the article in 2013, What is Joy? And the pastor was talking about the life of Paul, who was shipwrecked, caned, stoned, imprisoned, betrayed, whipped 39 times, multiple times. And yet he considered it all joy. And I was really struggling with that concept. I can't do that. If I get whipped, I'm going to feel it, and I'm not going to be happy about it. I'm not going to be joyful about it. And so I was really struggling with that thought. And God whispered in my ear, it's because He was doing what I created Him to do. Now take that, hold that bit of epiphany that God gave me. Fast forward to 2015. I'm in the midst of a very difficult year with our software company, which I've had a lot of success with, provided for our family, nice home, money in the bank, all that stuff. And I was feeling completely empty. I was at this sales conference, and the guy starts talking about these vision boards. You get a
Mm,
piece of cardboard and you put the things that excite you, that cause you to aspire. His was filled with, he wanted a bigger house for his family. He wanted this car. He wanted these material things. And I'm looking at that and I go, none of that inspires me. I'm
mhm.
happy with my house. I'm happy with my car. I don't really aspire for any of that things. And then all of a sudden, the realization, I don't dream or aspire for anything anymore, that I am operating out of duty, responsibility, and obligation. You take that self realization, you add it to the concept of joy, which is being obedient to God's calling. And God had me at a place in my life where He was about to wreck it by saying, this is what I created you to do, JR. Hold on, it's going to be a bumpy ride, but let's go there. So, BrushFires Ministry was founded in 2017 with a deep desire in my heart to experience joy, by being obedient to God's calling in my life, and to once again dream and aspire and to be um, ang- interested and excited about what I was doing again in life.
What a great intro. And interestingly enough, I had a conversation with somebody this morning. He had put it a little differently, but I think that what we had decided to settle on, we were talking about, and he was talking about what you're talking about, but just in a little bit of a different way. You're saying you were no longer dreaming, you were no longer inspired. The fire in your belly had like really almost been extinguished, or it was really, really low. He was relating it to depression and saying, and so what we had settled on is like when you get to that place, that is the call on your soul to go searching, seeking, asking questions of like, what else is there? And I remember when I had that similar question in my life of like, is this all there is? Like, there's got
Right,
to be more because I'm bored. Like, and
right.
that ennui, right? If we want to relate it to the Inside Out too, it's that sense of boredom, the sense of there's got to be more, or I desire more, but not really knowing what more is because you have all the things, right? The house, the spouse, the kids, the dog, the 7 vacations a year, whatever it is, but recognizing that all the physical more isn't enough. So, with that, where do people begin?
Well, the thing that we're describing is a psychological term called diffusion. Diffusion is a combination of depression and confusion.
Mm,
It's like I've achieved these things. I've have that I aspire to, and why am I not successful? I always sort of wondered why people like Kurt Cobain and Andy Kaufman could commit suicide and so forth, or like even Robin Williams.
yeah.
And it's like they had achieved all that they imagined that they could achieve, and they were still unhappy, unfulfilled. So that gets me back to that epiphany in 2013, where joy is the outcome of being obedient to God's calling in your life. Paul was able to endure all that hardship because he was doing what God created him to do. Now, what does that mean? To be able to do what God created you to do. Okay, and we're talking the stuff that changes the world around you, having a real impact, a positive impact on your world. There is an intimacy that you have to have with God, that you recognize that He sees you, that He is your creator, and that He has a better plan for your life than what you've settled for. And then you are intimately seeking Him. The things that God has called all of us to do cannot be accomplished without His collaboration and leading and partnership in that process. So when He led me in 2017 to begin the process of starting the BrushFires Ministry, if He had told me the things that needed to get accomplished, I'd have been absolutely like, okay, how am I ever going to pull that off? Forget it. That's impossible.
You'd stop
And then
before you started.
right. But the
Mhm.
reality is that He had me at a place where it says, do this. Okay, I did that. Now do this. I did that. And slowly over time, I watched Him do things and accomplish things that I would have never imagined that I could accomplish. He started giving me words of knowledge that I'd never really been able to um, repeat on a regular basis. I'll
Mhm.
give you an example. In our digital workshop, I shared the story of the kryptonite design. After going through the psychometric assessment training, I had realized that in my sales position at the software company, that there was a certain design that absolutely stopped me. And it was a person who was a high refiner, very critical, analyst, motivated by truth and never having enough information to be sure of the truth, and then people with accuracy and perfection, which is they have a very high standard and they tend to switch that off of themselves and put it on other people. Why aren't you measuring up, type of thing? And I realized that this is my kryptonite design, and these people tend to be engineers and quality assurance managers and things like that. And whenever I ran into that personality, it's like, okay, I'm not going to sell this guy. He's never going to choose us. That's just too risky for them. So I'm doing this design discovery meeting, and this guy's design, as I'm doing his wife, is being revealed. And after I get done his wife's purpose statement, I'm going, oh God, don't tell me. Don't tell me after doing a 2.5 hour DDM with his wife, I now have to go through a 3 hour wrestling match with this disagreeable human being. Uh, and surely, but my wife starts writing his design up on the board, and he's 80% refiner, not just a miner, just 80% refiner. He's 60% analyst, and guess what? He has accuracy and perfection under values. And I just went to a corner of the house, and I said, "Oh God, you've got to help me. This is going to be exhausting." So we started his DDM, and we get to the point where my wife is actually conducting the session where she's asking these questions, and I'm writing down the results. And so I've got my back. I'm doing this on a dry erase board, and I've got my back to the rest of the people there. And I'm writing down the results as they are being revealed. And all of a sudden, I get this emotion on me, Sherisse. It was like nothing had been said, but it was like this deep sorrow just went over my spirit, to the point where if you get really emotionally upset, you can't talk. Your voice
Yes.
starts cracking, and you're so my eyes are tearing up, and I've got this crack in my voice. So I don't say anything. I've got my back to them. I'm going, what is going on?
Mm.
This isn't real. This is weird. And all of a sudden, the Holy Spirit said, "This is what he feels every day."
Heavy.
And I was like, oh. I turned around and I looked at the man dead in the eye, and I go, "You've been hurt very deeply."
Mm-hmm.
Now, understand, this guy's a complete stranger. I
Yeah.
don't know anything about his past. He's in his early 70s, and he doesn't hesitate, Sherisse. He
Mm-hmm.
completely opens up and goes, "It was my dad. I was never good enough for him."
Mm-hmm.
I had this sense of righteous indignation. I was so angry at what his dad, but what the world had done to him, how
Yeah.
he had held this burden for 70 years.
Wow.
And we got him to a place where we came up with this purpose statement. He was really accepting it and believing in it. And it literally changed his life. It turned him from this dour, sour, disagreeable type of person to this joy-filled individual that was actually, he ministers to the homeless down at the bus station in Spokane, and he does Bible studies for shut-ins. It was the very first time that I had this active integration with the Holy Spirit, where he
Yeah.
downloaded something into me that was like, all right, I gotta have time to figure out what just happened, because it was real, it was accurate, it was completely of God. And there's a part of me that goes, yeah, I want that collaboration,
Yeah.
because he showed me something that allowed me to touch that man and to reach into his spirit and say, "You are still alive. You're not dead yet." It allowed me to do that. And that was all God. It had nothing to do with my training. It had nothing to do with my skill set or my maturity or whatever wisdom I had acquired. No, that was God in it, in the midst of it. And all I had to do was be obedient to show up. Your people start getting a taste of that and that joy that that produces, then they can be like Paul and consider it all joy, because it's like, it doesn't really matter. God's got me.
What a beautiful experience. And thank you for sharing it. Like, as you were talking about it, I was recalling a similar experience. And the thought that occurred to me was like, just imagine if we were all able to meet perfectly good strangers and connect with them on that level where you can feel whatever they're carrying, even just for a moment, so that you can identify it and then really approach the experience with so much more compassion and empathy. Because when you can, because there's obviously a limit to what words can convey.
Right.
Right. Words are going to be very, someone can tell you their story and sometimes you might feel it. And I think that subconsciously or inherently, it's either you feel it because you've had this experience or you're feeling it on a soul level and really creating intimacy, right? And usually people think about the word of intimacy in terms of, um, in a romantic sense, but
Right.
really, if you break down the word of intimacy, into me I see, or into you I see, and
Exactly.
that soul connection, that very emotional connection, because look at what it did for you. It got you feeling indignant, and then empathy of like and then on the recipient's end, what does it do? It lowers all of his walls.
Barriers. Yep.
Yeah, because you're saying, I see you on a soul level, I see you. And just what a beautiful experience, and thank you for sharing that.
Well, but that's the thing is the design discovery meeting process allows us to do that for every person. Every
Yeah.
person that goes through that coaching session, I get the privilege of seeing them as God created them, not based upon their behavior. That's a whole different thing. But the beautiful person that God created, the one that can touch somebody else's soul, the one that can speak hope and encourage, the one that can evangelize, the one that can teach or counsel, those beautiful souls are still there. And that destiny, that calling is waiting for you to get to the same place that that God got me to. And you say, I want that. I wanted what Paul had.
Yeah.
I, I, I didn't want to go through the shipwrecking and the beatings and all that stuff. I didn't want that, but I wanted that intimate relationship with God. Well, who else can see you better than God?
Yeah.
And so, what we get to do, the privilege of our ministry, is that we get to be able to express that. I'd recently had a graduate that did a prophetic painting for us. It's actually going to be the cover of our next book. And our ministry just released a song. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we released a song. It's called Strong and Courageous, and it's on SoundCloud because we're not in the music business, but we released a song and it's beautiful. Anyway, the word that she had with that is that I get to um, invite people into an intimate place with God where He can express through me how He created them and the beauty of that, the hope that that instills in a person, that God hasn't forgotten them, that they still have a plan, that God knows that you are going to make all these bad decisions. Will you continue to make those bad decisions, or is this the time that you're going to say, I'm done making those bad decisions. I want to do what God created me to do. He's waiting for every one of his children to say that to him. And just like the father of the prodigal son, the story of that is not about the son; it's about the dad. He's sitting on the porch going, "God, is today the day my son's going to come back to me? Is today the day my daughter's going to come back? Look, she said yes, she's coming."
I'm sorry, I'm just chuckling because my mom calls me the prodigal child like all the time.
I'm sure she does it in a loving way. I'm sure she absolutely is. It's all love.
It doesn't feel like it, but yes. I actually recently said to her, I'm like, if you really want me to stop being the prodigal child, you have to actually stop calling me the prodigal.
Yeah, stop speaking that over me, okay? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. Speak. Actually, think about that though. But that's the part that we get to play. We get to show because we're all prodigals. I mean, every one of us is. We're all prodigals. But we get to show somebody this is who God created you to be, and
Mhm.
it's worlds better than what you've settled for. Um, don't you want that? And it really is a simple exchange once you can see it and um, embrace it. Once you can embrace that design that God's created you to be, it's exciting. That I mean, I have not been bored since saying yes to God's calling in my life. I've been challenged. I've been spiritually attacked. I've had people, you know, um, do unkind things. I mean, I've experienced all that stuff. So I guess in a sense, yeah, I've been shipwrecked. I've been caned. I've been beaten. I've been stoned. I've been imprisoned. You know, not like Paul, but to some extent. But it's still worth it. It's still like, yeah, but nothing's more significant than what I'm doing right now. And why would I settle for what was? You know, that's the thing. That's a lot of people don't understand that they are spiritual creatures trapped in a body. And as
Mm-hmm.
long as the enemy can have you trapped by worldly desires, pursuing things that he knows are not going to be fulfilling, pursuing worldly pursuits, he's got you. He's got you where he wants you. If you dare to pursue what God wants to do through you, he knows that that's going to cause damage to his efforts and works.
Yeah.
Marriages that we have helped heal, lives that we have helped put on the right path. That is part of this worldly system's desires to keep those people enslaved by whatever it is shame, guilt, or material wealth or greed, whatever it is that they're enslaved by. And if we can release them and save them from that, now we have undone his work. And every one of God's children have the capacity to do that in some form or another. We're all here sent to Earth in a rescue mission. We're
Mm-hmm.
here to rescue one another. You know, the thing I love about the Christian faith is this: it's akin to one beggar finding food and going to another beggar and saying, "Hey, I found food. Let me lead you there."
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more about what that process actually looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, you and I meet um, by happenstance, maybe.
Which is what
Uh,
we've done. Yeah.
exactly. And, maybe feeling a little bit lost and really, because what I love about the way that you recounted your story is that there's obviously big pieces in there. Now, actually, let me go back. Let me go way back. Let me start by asking you this question. Have you always had a strong relationship with God? That's the first question I'm going to ask.
Not on my end, but on his end. And I'll explain what that means.
Okay.
There were no Christians in my family.
Mm.
Okay. No friends, no influences. The only reason I was saved at 12 is that my mom had two boys and recognized that she needed some peace in the house, and vacation Bible school was free and Sunday school was free. So if she sent me there, I was out of her hair for, 5 or 6 days a week or until the next vacation Bible school.
Yeah.
And so I was saved at 12 years old in Deltona, Florida, at a Baptist church, um, at the end of a vacation Bible school. Again, no Christians around me. There's some Christians at school, but I always thought that they were goody goodies and, whatever. I couldn't really relate with them. And I got baptized at 16 because my parents were having problems, and my mom and my stepfather, I should say. And they thought that was a good idea to get the family to church. But, there was no change at home. So it was like, I'm not seeing any benefit of this.
Mm-hmm.
And so get married at 20, programming for a company in La Crescenta, California. And in the end of 1986, beginning of 87, God gives me a dream that says, if you don't get your family to church, your oldest son is going to be hurt beyond your ability to be able to help him.
Wow.
So he was faithful. He says, no, you're mine. Okay, son, you're mine. And I'm changing your life right now. I've always been confident about who I am and my abilities, my talents, and my skills. I know that anything I apply my mind to, I can pretty much pull off, and I expect success. I've been referred to multiple times as arrogant.
Mm.
Sherisse, I woke up from that dream like this. I was just shaking. It was like,
Mm.
I knew one thing. I knew two things. I knew who talked to me. I go, that's the creator of the universe, and he just gave you a message.
Yeah.
And what was that message? Get your family to church, or your oldest son is going to be hurt beyond your ability to help him.
Hmm.
So I shouted over my shoulder going out the door because I didn't trust telling my wife what had happened. I shouted, find us a church. We're going this Sunday, slammed the door and ran out because I couldn't trust myself to have the conversation. And all those faithful Bible school, vacation Bible school teachers, all that came rushing back in those first couple of years, all the things that they had implanted in me. So I will say that God's always been faithful to me. I, on the other hand, have had moments of being backslidden or angry with him or whatever that I was like, no, I'm done with your people. Nope, I'm not going to do that. Nope, I got a better plan. And yet God still, for some reason, has this desire to work through me and will use a 2x4 to get my attention.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So my next question is, you listened,
Yeah.
right? Like you didn't even hesitate. Like you didn't even test it. You were not even like, did that really? Because that's what happens, right? And the reason why I wanted to go back is because, we talk about people being lost or disillusioned or diffusion, so depressed and confusion. And the first thing that probably generally happens if you have zero relationship with God, the creator, the divine, whatever you identify with it as, is resistance. Did I really hear that? Did I really feel that? What did that dream really mean? So on and so forth. But you didn't. You were just like, find me a church and I'm going.
Yeah. No. Well, again, I was his son.
Yeah.
See, the thing about making a commitment to Christ is you can't take yourself out of God's hands. I mean, there's some debate that you can make a choice to walk away from your faith. I don't know how any human being can decide to do that, but I guess that's a possibility. But your behavior, your sinful choices, your bad choices are not enough to remove God's love for you.
Yeah.
So when he spoke to me back in 1987, it's like I knew who was talking to me. I knew it. That's the guy. That's the guy that saved you from the consequences. Understand? I got my 16-year-old girlfriend pregnant. Okay, we were married I was 20, she was 16. Okay, I'd seen him show up in our life multiple times, where the consequences of my behavior, I was spared from. Okay, that's called mercy. Mercy is when you don't get what you deserve. Okay. Grace is when you get what you don't deserve. So God had been showing up in my life with mercy and grace. And it was like, I acknowledged that. I still wasn't pursuing him in relationship, primarily because I didn't know what that looked like. I'd never had it demonstrated in my life. I didn't meet my first man that I could actually model my life over until I went to that church. Then I started meeting some men that were 20 years older than me that had lived some that I could go, all right, that's a godly man. I can see how he struggled, but I see what he did. I see the choices that he came to. So I would say that if you have one of those encounters with God, the very first thing you want to do is, does it feel like fear, anger, or shame? Then you had a spiritual encounter, but that wasn't from God. Fear, anger, and shame is from the enemy, and that's how he manipulates you.
Yeah.
Did you feel convicted? Convicted is the opposite of fear, anger, and shame. Conviction is you're going in the wrong direction. You know you're going in the wrong direction. Do a 180. Come back to me, child. Come back to me. I will show you how you can get out of the mess that you've put yourself in that you call your life right now. Come back to me. So my very first thing was in 87, or second thing, because the first thing was in when I was 12, was, all right, God, yeah, I'm coming back because I don't want my son to feel the consequences of what it is that God was warning me about.
Right.
By the way, those consequences still came into play. When he was in 5th grade, 6th grade, he was deep into pornography, alcohol, and drugs.
Oh,
okay?
wow. Yeah.
Okay. But we had the relationships and we had seen the examples of other Christian parents and how they dealt with their kids. So all the resources and solutions that we needed to take to intervene on our son's behalf were already demonstrated to us. So It wasn't get your family to church and all your problems go away. No, it's get your family to church and I will show you how you can help save and intervene on your son's behalf.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And I love that because you know what it then speaks to is because, um, you talked a little bit about having anger with God or disappointment or frustration or whatever it is, right? Because then there's always often this question from people about, well, if God is real, then why do all these bad things happen? And the point of your story is the things still happened, but you were prepared for it. You were given the tools, the resources, the people to be able to navigate the situation because you don't know what your son's mission in this life. None of us know what our missions are until we begin to start actually living them, right?
Right.
And then you start to feel like, okay, I'm on the right path. But the point ultimately being is that you were prepared because of the vision that you were given via dream to help your son navigate through that. So it's not you're never going to have problems, it's you will
Right.
have tools to deal with the problems.
No, and that's it. And the thing is that argument, if there is a God, why do bad things happen to good people and all that stuff? That's such a specious, shallow argument. Understand that all people are born separated from God. We all sin. I don't care what level of sins you have, what your particular flavor of sin has. I mean, we have this tendency to say, well, I didn't murder anybody, or I didn't, commit this sexual immorality, or yeah, all sin's the same. It all separates you from God. And it doesn't matter if you have in your mind this much sin or that much sin. It's all the same. So for God to reach out to a 12-year-old boy who is surrounded with non-believers and say, yeah, I got a plan for you. I'm going to give you a choice to make a free will choice to accept me in this in vacation Bible school. Now, that's the other part that people don't want to take responsibility for. I had a free will choice to say, yeah, I'm not taking my family to church. And then my son would have suffered the consequences. And quite likely, my wife and I would have gotten divorced. Not that we were having problems then, but right at that moment, right before all that was happening, okay, and I got that dream, our youngest son was diagnosed with epilepsy that he suffered with for 37 years. I started my software company, and my wife was diagnosed with a giant cell tumor, all within 6 months of that dream. Okay. It all happened at that time. Our marriage would have never have survived if my wife didn't get saved by me saying yes to God going to church, because I needed a patient, godly woman to deal with all the craziness that was about to happen to our family. So you have a free will choice. So if God chooses to say to that 12-year-old JR, I'm going to make an offer that you can't refuse, or you shouldn't refuse if you're smart enough. And JR goes, that's a good choice. I think I'm going to choose salvation over not having God in my life. God is going to continue to give you those opportunities as long as you are still willing to listen. And then sometimes he'll let you get the consequences of your actions so that he can put you in a position where you will listen.
Yeah.
Where you go, yeah, Dad, I kind of messed up. Sorry, I'll straighten up. So free will and the fact that none of us deserve a savior, none of us are good enough based upon God's standard of what good is, which is perfection. So we all need a savior. None of us deserve a savior, and that's why Christ had to die on our behalf.
Thank you for that. So it occurs to me though, and I guess the reason why I asked about your relationship with God was because the point I was ultimately trying to get at is like, if you don't have a perceived relationship with God, even if God is always there and trying to show himself in your experience, but you're not looking for it because you don't believe in it. You're not looking for it. You are angry or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you begin to create that? How do you begin to, especially if there's a negative or not so pleasant experience that you've had at some point in your life with God, then you're going to be probably a little more resistant to being open to it.
Yeah, I would say most people that have that sort of negative experience really doesn't. They don't have negative experience with God. They
Yeah.
have negative experience with the church.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I
like
didn't want to say it, but you did. So,
oh yeah, no, I'll say it. I'll say it flat out. Okay, so you want to hear because why I have to be this confident and arrogant? You know, the whole point of the BrushFires Ministry is to change the Western Church.
mm,
That's just a little bit of what God intends to do through our ministry. Jr. I'm putting you aside because I want you to fix my church. Oh, thanks, God.
yeah.
Thank you. They're going to embrace me. They're going to absolutely love what I have to say, very much like John the Baptist. So,
Yeah.
first and foremost, it's God's people. Was it Gandhi said, "I love your Jesus, but I don't like his followers." Okay,
Mm,
that's it. It's so the church does a great job of chasing people away.
yeah.
Second of all, the ones that are in the church that have survived that initial gang beating from the church, it's a circular firing squad. Oh,
Yeah.
you sinned. Oh, you're no longer good. You're no longer valuable. God, you can't do this. You can't be doing that because God can only use sinless people, right? Okay. Which one of you is sinless?
Mm,
None of us are sinless. So I would say, first and foremost, forgive God's inept, hurtful, misguided children and go to the source yourself. The thing about Christianity is that you don't need a priest, you don't need a pastor. You don't need any of those intermediaries. It's about a relationship. I hate the word religion. It's about a relationship. What is your relationship? The only relationship that I had with God at 12 years old was a personal one because there was nobody else in an organized religion around me saying you got to do this or you got to do that, and because we weren't going to church.
yeah.
So it's all about that personal relationship. So just in a quiet moment, and give him some time to actually get your attention because you're distracted by your phone or your responsibilities and your duties or your obligations. And say, Dad, are you real? And if you're real, I really need that salvation thing. Would you, can I accept you as my Savior? Ask him. And the answer is going to be yes.
Yeah.
But Dad, what about this abortion I had? I don't care. It's not what I wanted for your life. I love that child that got aborted, but I still love you too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about that divorce? Yeah, that was regrettable. That wasn't the person I wanted you to marry in the first place, but you weren't listening. But it doesn't matter what you do. God is going to accept you as you are, and then slowly over time work with your free will to turn you into the person He created you to be. One of the things that we have to do, and this is amazing that we have to do this in the American church, our entire workshop program is to simply make the case that God has a better plan for your life, that you are uniquely suited to do unique good things, and that you should trust Him in directing your life. Literally, we have to spend 8 weeks making that case because the church is not doing it.
It's a tricky one. It's a really tricky one because it requires, it's, I remember when I would start having this conversation, and it's like you're coming at it from a very human, rational, logical place, right? Where it's like, I got to see it, I got to smell it, I got to touch it, I got to physically wrap my experience around it to believe it. But what the relationship actually requires is for you to ask and believe, and then you will see. And in that order, it doesn't happen it really, that's the only way it happens. You got to
Yeah,
ask
yeah.
and you got to believe. So you got to put it out there, and then you got to kind of wait.
Yeah, Hebrews 11 makes it real clear. You cannot please God without faith.
Yes.
Everyone, Moses is like this pillar of biblical heritage. God said, I want you to leave Babylon. I want you to leave your people, and I want you to go someplace that you've never seen before. And Moses said, okay. Now, he did delay, by the way. He didn't just drop everything and go. Yeah, so I'm guessing that God might have repeated himself once or twice, but which he doesn't like to do, by the way. I just want to be real clear on that. But he eventually did. So you cannot please God. Hebrews 11:1. When I came back to the church and we were going through a Bible study, they happened to be in Hebrews. And when we got to Hebrews 11:1, it spoke to me as my life verse at that time. I had never really heard it before.
Mm.
Hebrews 11:1 goes like this. Now faith is just the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. You cannot please God without faith. So you have to start taking those steps of faith in areas that are going to scare you
Yeah.
because you have decided that you can't do it. And you're right, on your own, you can't do it. You have to start taking those steps in faith. And then you have to see and wait and see if God is either opening the door or slamming the door. Am I going this direction because I've decided this is the best course of life and I'm banging my head against this locked door and it's not opening? Guess what? You've gone in the wrong direction. And
Yeah.
God's saying, are you tired of banging your head against that door? It looks like it hurts. Didn't that just cost you a lot of money? If you just stop banging your head long enough, you might hear me. I'm not wanting you to go that way. I'm the one who locked the door. You're not going that way.
Yeah.
And so therefore, you then have to say, all right, sorry, Dad, got ahead of you. What is it that you want me to do?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad I got your attention. Here, I want you to do this. That makes no sense, Dad. I mean, that's literally my 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I started off in this direction. All the doors were slammed shut. I'm going, Dad, this is not like you. Why are you not opening the doors? Until finally I said out loud, I know you're behind this. What do you want? To God.
I'm getting frustrated.
Yes. Yes. Why are you not showing up and providing like you always have? And it's because I provided something else for you and I need your attention. And you're not quite ready yet. So you're going to cool off for another 3 months. And then I'm going to tell you to do something. And hopefully you'll listen then. And he
But
did.
another
So,
excellent point, right? Because it's not that you don't always get the answer. I think that there's a part of that where you have to release the control in terms of what you think the answer should look like,
yes. Your
right?
expectations.
Yes, your expectations around it. So it's like you put it out there, you ask for it, it's showing up, but you have to be open to it not looking like, sounding like exactly what you might have envisioned it to look like, right? And then
Yeah.
there's the patience piece, which is around timing. Because what did you just say there? You said, now you're going to have to wait roughly about 3 months because you're not ready yet. Because really, let's face it, sometimes you need more tools, more resources. That could be experience, people, whatever, for all the things to line up for you to be ready for what the next step is.
Yep. And there was a couple people that had speak into my life. I was writing a lot of poetry and short stories, and it was just ways of expressing my frustration and my fears and just not knowing it. And the reality is God was actually writing prophetic words through me, and I didn't even realize it until years afterwards.
Mm.
My 2024 was my year of not of trying to learn to stop putting expectations on how God was going to manage his ministry. And because, I'm a business owner, I'm a business founder, I'm a ministry founder. It's like you take a personal relationship in that, this is something that I've created. Well, God kind of created it through you. We always forget that part, but then you sort of have an expectation as to how he's going to lead it and guide it. And 2024 was a year of me getting my expectations, crashed on the rocks to the point where God says, yeah, you're doing it again. It's not your ministry. It's my ministry that I'm putting under your responsibility to lead and to guide. You need to be checking with me. And I'm not doing it the way you think I'm going to do it, or I'm not going to do it now because there are other people that I have to introduce you to that you haven't met yet. that are going to be part of the next session of what I'm doing through your ministry or through the ministry. And therefore, you need to wait. And by the way, while you're waiting, I'm going to have you stop putting expectations on me on the chalkboard 1,000 times. I, I'm I'm writing a book right now called Sparks Turn into Brush Fires.
Mhm.
And when I recorded the year 2024 in the book, and I just got that done, hopefully the book's going to be released in the next 90 days. Um, I realized what he was teaching me in 2024 is those expectations. And it's like, okay, Dad, I think I've learned the lesson. I'm going to really try not to put those expectations on you anymore because it wasn't fun. That's really 2024 wasn't as bad as 2016, but 2024 really kind of hurt in a lot of personal ways. It was like, okay, yeah, I got to stop doing that. So,
So with that, you've talked a lot about, kind of that journey of really creating that very intimate relationship with God and really the trust that you have to build. And I mean, I'm personally looking forward to the day where it's just inherent, like this
right.
trust where it's just like, I mean, I recently had an experience and it was kind of fun, kind of funny, right? Like I have this vehicle and it literally died. Just got the worst news from the mechanic. It was just not even worth putting. And I remember for like a split second just being annoyed, not angry, just annoyed or frustrated. And then I was on to the next thing. I was having a conversation with somebody and they're like, wow, you don't really seem upset. I said, whatever. At the end of the day, I have no idea what would have happened with that vehicle. It could have been any number of things that would have happened with that vehicle. I don't recall asking for a new vehicle, but clearly God has something better in store for me. So I'm just
Right.
going to trust that. I'm not going to be annoyed. I'm not going to be upset. I mean, I really liked the vehicle. I was happy with it, but maybe I wasn't as happy as I could be because it was costing me money. And maybe that's what I was putting out there is that like, I really wish I could have a vehicle that wasn't costing me so much money in such a short period of time. And that was what I asked for. So I still don't have a new car yet. But again, I still trust that the right car will come along at the right time to fit all of my needs. So even as I'm like, I think the balance is between surrender and action. So I'm
Yes.
surrendering to God that the right vehicle will come about. And I'm using a very small example, but
No,
this is
no, no. I'm tracking with you. I get it.
yeah. I'm surrendering that I need to control the who, what, where, when, why, and how. And the action is I'm still looking, but I'm not going to force it. And I remember having a conversation with someone at the dealership where I was just like, listen, it's a car. I'm not going to force this. The right vehicle will come at the right time, and nobody's going to back me into a corner until I feel like it is the right vehicle for me. So, taking that example and extrapolating that to life, that's really what it looks like.
Right. And that's why I despise the word religion, but I describe it to people as a relationship. I
Mm,
mean, how many times do you go to Google or YouTube to research something? Well, what if you had the absolute right plan and the right resource and the wisest choice in the relationship with God?
yeah.
What if he says, I'm glad you're at the point where I can now talk to you because you're ready to listen. This is what I want you to know. And I've got even better things for you. There's a Brandon Lake sings a song that goes, the plans I have for you, it's don't you give up on me. In
Hmm.
fact, I've got a beautiful story about that. This is my 2024, so I was really frustrated. Was in the midst of it, didn't really realize what God was teaching me, and I was driving down to an appointment, um, and I was just really frustrated. I go, God, I've done all that I can do. I don't know what else I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Why is this not working out? Why is it not doing it? And he spoke to me. He goes, JR, I didn't create you to do. I created you to be.
Hmm.
One of the assessments that's part of our package is the values assessments.
Okay.
My values are being in control, being persuasive, being influential, and goal achievement. Those are my four values. Three of my four, 75% of who he created me to be is to be. What does that mean? When I tell you to do something, I want you to do it. I want you to be available to me. I want you to be obedient to me. I'll do the doing. You just need to be obedient. So I'm driving down, I've got this epiphany, and I just feel his presence like anoint me from my head to my toe. It just came on me. And I'm driving down this road, and my eyes are tearing up. And I get down to the bottom of the road, and on the song, on the radio comes the song from Brandon Lake, Don't Give Up on Me. And it starts off with, I see you, child. Just, I had to pull over to the side of the road. The first couple lyrics are like God's saying, I got you. I see you. I've been talking to you, but you weren't ready to listen.
Yeah.
And I was like, it went from being teary-eyed to ugly cry. And I don't care. I'm 66-year-old. I don't care. I am solid in my masculinity. If God brings me to tears, he brings me to tears. And
Yeah.
I just pulled over, and it was like, it was one of the most intimate moments of my entire life.
I love it.
And it all starts with you saying this first yeses when God prods you. That deal as a 12-year-old boy. Eternity with God or the opposite.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like a good deal. I'll accept that. This is a warning about your son. Are you going to listen to me? Yeah, Dad, I'm going to listen. You got my attention. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
It's that process. And then over time, the relationship becomes so intimate where you go, man, how did I get through life not recognizing how much you love me, provide for me, and care for me?
Mm-hmm.
How did I get to this place? And I'm just starting to figure this out, you know?
Yeah. I appreciate the vulnerability in sharing that, because it, and there's like really honestly no shame in it, right? I mean, I've had similar feelings where it's like that intimacy, and I think I've definitely said it on the podcast before, where I would watch my grandmothers, who were both very faithful Christians, and they had this love that I could just not wrap my head around. It was outside of my understanding. Right. Until you have it. And then it really honestly is just such an experience of, well, the intimacy that ultimately we're all looking for. I think every person on this planet, when you have that awareness of like what it is, what are you really seeking? It's the intimacy that you create with God to be seen truly in what your perfection is as you are, right? So there's one thing that I wanted to touch on, and it's because, you've alluded to it a lot in this conversation, and even in the conversations you and I have had before about gifts. And what do those look like, right? So you have the assessment that people go through. You talked about your values, but like when you're talking to people about their gifts, like what does that conversation look like? Like, just give me an example.
Well, we use a combination of psychometric assessments, which are scientific based. So ours are unique to our ministry, and they were developed by a born again believer. But most people have heard of DISC or Myers Briggs or Clifton Strengths. So we have 6 of those, along with the 3 clarifying assessments that are associated to that. And then we have 2 spiritual gifts. We have the gifts of the Spirit. We specialize or focus in on 7 of those. And then we also have the gifts from Jesus, which are apostolic, evangelist, prophetic, pastoral, and teaching. So those are both gifts from our Creator, one from the Spirit, one from Jesus. And so we use the spiritual and we take the scientific and we bring them together and we come up holistically with a unique purpose for each individual. Those things, there are a lot of assessments out there that will put you into like one of 9 different boxes. You're a 7, you're a 9, you're a beaver, you're a golden retriever, you're whatever. Okay, all that's baloney. Every one of God's children is unique. There's commonalities that we have, but there's things that are going to be common in me that are common in you, but there are going to be things that are common in me that are or opposite of you that are common with your mother,
Yeah.
that we have. And so that combination is just like your DNA. It's all the uniquenesses that make you up. And so we married the scientific with the, because God is the God of science. I mean, he created all this. I mean, he's, uh, how you can study science and not believe there's a God, is absolutely insane. And then we married the scientific with the spiritual. So the assessments that is the easy part, to be quite honest,
Mm.
is to do that. The hard part is to get the believer to say, God has a better plan for me, and that he wants something to do through me, that he sees me good enough to be able to do that, and that he really wants to have that kind of relationship with me. That's the harder
I
sell,
bet it would be. I
is
bet it would.
getting people to actually see the beauty of God's body of Christ, to get leaders to see that it's not about their agenda and their programs, it's about them creating disciples. Here's an interesting fact. In the New Testament, the word disciple is used, I believe, well over 200 times.
Mm.
The word Christian is used twice.
Mm.
But how do we describe ourselves? We describe ourselves as Christians. Why? Because that's nebulous. Christian means, okay, that means you go to church, okay? And you should do good things. Now, if we describe and introduce ourselves as disciples of Christ, now the accountability has gone way up. Well, you're a
Mm.
disciple. That means you have a discipler. That means he is the Lord of your life. What is your Lord asking you to do? Are you obedient to the call he has on your life? Yeah, we don't want to describe ourselves as disciples of Christ, because that takes a level of accountability through the roof. And none of us, or most of us, are not going to come close to being able to say, yeah, I'm doing what God created me to do. I'm living a life that is honoring to him.
Mm.
You know, I've been collecting these things, and I'm sure it'll be part of some future book. The 5 things that we value the most. The very first thing is our wealth. Okay, but it's the least of the 5. The next one is our time. The next is our gifts, our abilities.
Yeah.
Um, the the next, I forget the other 2. I think the last one is our will. We will not give our will to anybody, and yet we're told to sacrifice our will, give it to God. We'll give you money, God. Sure, I'll give you money. All right, if I have to show up, I'll show up. I'll give you some of my time. All right, if I have to do, I'm not giving you the will of my life. No, I know best. I, I know best on how to spend make my choices. God, I'm not involving you in that. You've
Yeah.
gone from preaching to meddling. I'm not going to have you meddle in my life. So, yeah. And if you know how stingy people can be with their money, and how even more stingy they can be with their time, imagine how stingy we are with our free will.
Very tight-fisted.
Yeah.
I imagine very, very attached
Yeah.
to
It's like that.
it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it goes back to though that fallacy of control. And then it then equally goes back to a fear factor, right? Because it's like it's fear of the unknown. If I'm literally saying, Jesus, take the wheel, like you do it, because I don't want to. That takes a real degree of faith and trust and belief, and so it makes sense to me why there would be strong resistance over accepting that. Okay, there's this, that I'm first of all very unique. Like we say that, but do we really believe it? And I'm
Right.
the first person to say, well, maybe not the first, but definitely someone who can say, like, you struggle with, or I have struggled with, like, what makes me so special and what makes me so unique. Like I'm just one of 8 billion. So at the end of the day, like there's 8 billion people on this planet. What makes me so amazing? So if I'm
Because
thinking,
of who created you. That's why
yeah,
you're amazing.
but seeing the uniqueness in that, because
Right.
what you're talking about is, yes, there's the commonalities that we might have and the differences, but again, coming back to that general fear that a lot of people have, which is, well, why is this thing that you've crafted, right, so special and unique to me. But again, it's a journey, right? It's not an overnight process.
Yeah, one of the things I like about when God created man, and eventually woman, is that God spoke everything into existence. He spoke the stars. He spoke the universe. He spoke the oceans. He spoke land and animals. He spoke them all into existence. When he created man, he got his hands dirty. He
Mm,
literally put his hands in the dust and formed man out of the dust. God only got his hands dirty when he created you. That's
mm,
how precious and intimate you are. He could have spoke you into existence. No, he got his hands dirty. It was personal. It
yeah,
was intentional. It was respectful. He says, "No, I'm going to craft you by my own hands."
beautiful. Well, I feel like we only scratched the surface of the things that I wanted to chat about today, but that's very okay. It's just a great reason to connect again and have you join me here on the podcast. So, before we wrap up today, final words that you would like to share with the audience. What's your key takeaway for today?
What God has for you is better than what you've settled for. If you've only experienced, let's say, beef as a McDonald's hamburger,
Hmm.
I gotta tell you, if that makes you happy, a filet mignon or ribeye steak is really going to blow your mind. But if your perspective is all that I've had about beef is McDonald's hamburger, that's all you know.
Yeah.
So you don't know what you don't know. Trust God that He's got a better plan for you, and that what He wants to do through you is it's going to blow your mind. It's going to scare you, and that's good because that will remind you that you can't do it without God. But it's going to blow your mind. I can point to multiple things that have happened in this ministry just since 2016, and I marvel at what God has done and things that I would have never expected. And I will tell you, if you interview me in 2 years from now, I will have a whole new list of things that God has just blown my mind through. Uh, for your listeners, give Sherisse some feedback. Make sure you like and subscribe to this podcast. But if this is something that you would like to see more of, let her know. Because we have just scratched the surface. We haven't gone into anything. In fact, if Sherisse wants to go and register at our site and do our assessments, we could actually come back and have a discussion so you get to know your host in a more intimate way. We can
I
actually do that.
already did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I
Well,
did,
then,
yeah.
all
So
right.
we
Then,
already have a second episode already planned because I did the assessment.
all right. Sorry, we have so many people go through. It's hard for me to keep track. Then perfect.
Oh, good.
Then we will
Yeah.
schedule one at some point. If your people want it, then you'll get to see Sherisse in all her glory.
I think that more than necessarily people, whether they want to see it or not, I think it would be really interesting for people to see and understand, like, what does that actually look like? Because I'll be honest, I
Sure.
got the assessment and I was just like, okay, I don't really know what any of this means. So I think what we should do is absolutely do another episode where we can like dive into, and we can actually piggyback it on this one, where we can dive into like, okay, so I've done this assessment now. What does it all mean? So if somebody is feeling dazed, confused, lost, whatever the case may be, they can see what this actually will do for them. And then you can tell me, am I on purpose?
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't normally offer this, but if between now and then you go through and watch our video series, I'm pretty sure I gave that to you then. If I gave you the assessments, I probably gave the video series too. So log back on and do the digital workshop and look at the workshop. But if you actually commit to the time to actually go through the video series, then what I'll do is I'll do a live design discovery meeting, which is okay. You're going to need time for this because it's a 2 to 3 hour process. But the way it works is, and then you can edit it down on your end.
Yeah.
But we'll invite the Holy Spirit into the process. We will take you through it, and we will come up with a purpose statement at the end of it.
Oh, I love it. I'm totally game. I'm trying to
Right.
say yes to everything. So yes, yes, and yes. I already did the assessment. So yes, I will
All right.
keep going.
All right. I will double check with your license and make sure that you have the workshop
Okay.
videos, and just watch the videos, do the homework. And once you've done that, we'll schedule a DDM, and you and I will do it live for people to see.
I'm excited. Thank you.
All right. Well, by the way, you guys need to give her some feedback on this. So if you're interested in seeing Sherisse's live DDM, Mom, if you're listening, Mom, okay, make sure you like, subscribe, make comments, share it on your social media so that Sherisse gets the clear message that, yes, her audience wants to get to know her as God created her to be.
Wow, you're really rubbing on a wound. Because you kept saying, if you want to get to know Sherisse more, and the messages I receive lately are get out of your comfort zone and let people see you. So
Well, there you go. There you go. This is perfect for that.
beautiful. Well, thank you so much, JR, for joining us today. I look forward to having you back on again where we can do my DDM, and folks can learn more about me in a more intimate fashion, I suppose. So
thank you for having me. If people want to check us out, go to brushfires-digital.com. It'll be in the notes there. Register as a user. You'll get one of the 11 assessments for free. And 2 books, soon be my 3rd book. I'm making that free to everybody. The Sparks Turn into Brushfires once that's released. And you can take the same journey that Sherisse is taking and join her in knowing what your God-given purpose is.
beautiful. And to the audience, thank you for joining today. As JR has indicated, please like, comment, give me feedback. I'm always asking for feedback, but this is me very openly saying, please share your thoughts, feelings, ideas, and suggestions and feedback moving forward. And until next time, please take care.